Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to this class. We were looking at the corporate diversification in India in the last class. What is the impetus given due to this liberalization process, which has been initiated by the government of India in 91. So, how has it contributed? Now, it is the points that we can make out due to this liberalization is that this diversification, corporate diversification is being actively pursued. What are the reasons? I mentioned the reasons also in the last class. Just to recap, now the Indian entrepreneur is no longer confined to that frog in the well type of syndrome. He is prepared to think big, he is willing to think big and also grow big. So, the result is that he is prepared to take risks, and risks of higher order, and this higher order risk bearing attitude is also furthered by the type of impetus given by financial institutions to these entrepreneurs. They are prepared to help them out with taking these risks. Added to this, there is the middle class confidence in the equity market. What has that done? It has infused a lot of capital into this equity market in the country. So, how does the capital come? By buying up shares. So, the middle class is buying up shares of different companies. So, the companies have at their disposal sufficient money, capital for their visualized projects, both ongoing as well as future projects. So, this is the way the equity markets have contributed to diversification also. Now, the other thing which is coming in is which is strongly coming in the present scenario is we have a large domestic market which is not yet fully tapped. So, the Indian corporates want to tap this market, whether be it in the manufacturing sector or be it in some other sector, whether it is a construction sector or the services sector. If you look at the services sector, that is one of the sectors where a lot of interest is being evinced. So, the economy, if you really see, more than 50% is being contributed by the services to the GDP. So, this is the way things are going in the country at the present juncture. So, all this makes the corporate diversification quite a challenging process in the Indian scenario. So, the Indian scenario looks at this corporate diversification as a challenging process now. So, now we look at some aspects of integration. What is this integration? Suppose it is a horizontal integration. What does that mean? It means owning or controlling a number of similar but separate activities in the same industry or business. So, this is you look at the same industry, take control of separate activities, so that you have a full control of the entire business itself, many times done by Reliance. Then vertical, suppose you are looking at backward integration, vertical What does that mean? Diversifying into raw materials and other supplies for the company's products. This may enable a company to improve the quality of the product. Again, this Vimal clothing went into this type of mode of operation. So, then suppose what is this forward integration? Diversification further down the line to final consumer. So, this is followed by this company Nirlon, where direct control on distribution and logistic channel is taken care of by the company. Now, when we are looking at diversification, one aspect we have to take note of: what is the synergy that will accrue by diversifying. So, whether you go through horizontal integration or whether you go through vertical integration or whatever might be the type of diversification you are planning, related, unrelated, what is the synergy that is going to accrue to you by this type of diversification. So, you can look at this synergy in a few categorized ways. One is the production synergy. Suppose a company, let us say, is manufacturing coolers, refrigerators, ACs. Then it is at a certain distinct advantage by getting into room heaters and ovens, that is manufacture of room heaters and ovens, because you are not really disturbing the production line. The production line continues, and using almost the same production line, you are looking at this other thing, that is the room heaters and ovens. So, what is happening? You are adding 2 product lines perhaps to your portfolio. So, the product portfolio is getting expanded, and when it is getting expanded, you are likely to realize synergy in the production and operation scenario. Then what is this marketing synergy? So, you have a well known firm which manufactures this, which produces these cricket balls and bats, that is the cements. So, now it went into tennis balls. Suppose it goes into tennis, which it has gone, tennis balls and rackets, there is a synergy which comes in. So, the marketing operation is more or less the same for the cricket balls and the bats as well as the tennis balls and the rackets. It will not be drastically different. You are making use of the same marketing setup to market both the cricket balls and the bats and also the tennis balls and the rackets. This you are seeing happening in so many sports activities as well. Then what is financial synergy? Suppose you are a fan manufacturer, let us say, and you offer discount in winter. Why do you want to offer discount in winter? There is less demand for fans in winter. So, how should the fan market be at least kept going, if not at a high? You should not make it to come to a stop. So, this aspect is exploited by a well known Indian brand. So, who keeps on saying during winter, offers different types of discounts, now which has been imitated by other players also in the market. This is the financial synergy aspect. So, you offer a discount in winter, your actual use for the fan for a city like Bangalore comes to you only during the summer months. In winter, you are very unlikely to use the fan. Now, organizational synergy, similarly in the north also, you may not be using the fan during the winter because it may be quite cold. So, the organization synergy is where, let us say you are a manufacturing organization and you start consulting services. So, this is advocated to many organizations where you find that the end product, it has got depleted. What could be an example? Gold mining is an example for this. So, you have this gold mining which was going on in the Kolar gold fields. So, a few decades back, the gold that was available in this KGF was substantial. Now, the gold mining has become almost nil. There is no gold deposit available, but lot of expertise is available with this KGF gold mines on how to mine gold that can be used as a consulting service to other mining organizations, not essentially gold mining, it can be also other mining activities as well. So, this is how you can tap the organization synergy, where you draw upon this organization's capabilities and draw and then have synergistic value. So, when you are looking at diversification, some issues, suppose you as an organization, let us say you have to take a decision, is it better to diversify or is it better to expand? So, then the answer could be, before diversifying, a company can and should, kindly note that, do not use diversification as the first option. You look at expansion in the existing product line. So, a company can and should consider expansion in the existing product line before you go to diversification. So, this is what you would like the company to do. Now, when we are looking at these companies, there is one more aspect which comes in, that is, what is this mergers and acquisitions? When does it take place? What is a merger? What is an acquisition? When does it take place? A merger takes place when two or more companies roughly of equal size or strength formally submerge their corporate identities into a single one in a friendly atmosphere. A holding company may be formed and its shares are exchanged for shares held by the shareholders of the merging company. So, note this point, that is, suppose when does the merger take place? You have two companies more or less of the same size and or strength. So, they are equally capable or holding the same type of market shares. So, what happens? They come together, submerge their individual identities to grow in, to project a single company. Now, when you are projecting a single company, then what is going to happen? Your market share is not just double, that is A plus, it is not even the market share of A plus B alone. You may find, due to the synergy of the merger, it may be more than A plus B, as when the holding company comes into operation. So, you are going to have a substantial control over the market. Then what is this acquisition? Suppose this merger sometimes is not accepted, then a situation comes where this takeover or acquisition starts coming into the forefront. So, when so what does this acquisition or takeover mean? When a company offers cash or securities in exchange for the majority shares of another company happens when merger is not agreed upon. When the battle is severe, target price may be 100% above market price. Suppose you want to acquire another company, that company first did not agree to merge with this your company, but you want to acquire that company, come what may, you want to acquire that company. So, then what will you do? You try to coax the shareholders to sell their shares to you. Then what happens? When the shareholders sell their shares to you, you acquire control over the company. So, in this whole process, it is quite possible that a 10 rupee share may go beyond 20 rupees, that is, it may be a 100% increase. This happened quite in the recent past with this company Tata Coffee. So, they wanted to enter the coffee industry, that is a coffee making business. So, they how to enter the coffee making business? You have the Tata Tea, they wanted to enter the coffee field. So, when they wanted to enter the coffee field, they zeroed in on a company called Consolidated Coffee, which was operating in Coorg. So, what is the type of this thing? It was almost an acquisition, but not really told as an acquisition or takeover, but for all practical purposes an acquisition by Tatas, because the Consolidated Coffee had all the facilities for this coffee industry and Tatas was making a foray into this. So, they coaxed the shareholders of Consolidated Coffee to sell their shares to Tata Coffee. The result was all the shareholders of this Consolidated Coffee got a very high price for their share, which they could not have expected if they had been traded in the market. So, this is what happens when situations of this takeover sometimes become hostile, and when then this battle, this financial battle is severe, the target price goes above 100% of the market price. So, then what might be the motivations for merger? This is one more thing which you should look at. So, why do two companies want to merge? The reason may be, as I told you, getting higher market share, or it may be improving economies of scale, gaining managerial expertise, or you may want to gain that market supremacy. So, or suppose you have a company is producing a new product or a brand, has got a brand name which the other company does not have. By merging, you get that brand name and also the product. So, the portfolio diversification is also possible. Then one of the things which you are really doing by this merger is you are reducing the risk and borrowing costs, and then taxation or investment incentives, you can avail of all this in the whole process. This is what happens in the whole this thing. Now, the next question that comes is, how do you screen a candidate for merger? How do you screen a candidate for merger? So, the screening of the candidate for merger goes through a process. What is the type of process which you go through? That is, what is the screening process that you go through? You identify the industries, that is the medium scale investment or large scale investment, then you select the sectors. Which sector you want to go in? You want to go in energy, you want to go in transport, what is, or in the services. Now, based on the sectors that you have taken, get the data with respect to sales turnover, return on investment, market shares, competition, asset turnover, etc. In other words, you get the financial performance of the company with respect to well known financial yardsticks, that is undisputed financial yardsticks. So, nobody can dispute that financial yardsticks which you have chosen. Now, using these yardsticks, choose the companies. How do you choose the company? You choose the company by making again two undisputed yardsticks. One is the sales turnover and the asset level. So, why do you want to do this? By looking at the sales turnover and the asset level, you are able to determine what will be the cost of acquisition. Suppose you want to acquire a company X, what will be the cost of acquisition of this company? So, then when you look at, when you get the cost of acquisition, what can it tell you? It can help you or it can guide you to compare candidates. Suppose there are many candidates for merger or acquisition, you can compare these different candidates. Then after comparing these different candidates, you can rank them, that is who could be who could be getting the slot 1, who could be getting the slot 2, etc. And for ranking these candidates, you follow what is called the concept of fit. That is, how does the whole acquiring company fit with the parent company. So, that is in this concept of fit, what are you trying to do? You are identifying the good ones. So, you are identifying the good ones. This identification of the good ones can be with respect to high market share, growing market, then the good management system, then the diversified portfolio, then the ROI being above the benchmark level. Now, how do you assess the suitability of a proposal? So, you assess the suitability of a proposal depending on the funds availability, then the likely positive synergies, then look at the negative synergies and weaknesses, then is the timing appropriate and is the required management style available. Suppose that is a different management style, yours is a different management style, then both of you can get into problems by merging. So, all this has to be taken into account. Now, how do you value the shares for these mergers and acquisitions? What should be the P/E ratio? So, the valuation for mergers and acquisitions can be through the P/E ratio, that is a price earnings ratio, where you look at the market price per share divided by the net earnings after tax per share. So, you take the market price per share, divide it by the net earnings after tax per share, it gives you the P/E ratio. Now, after getting the P/E ratio, you try to get the EPS also, that is the earnings per share. How do you get the earnings per share? The market price of the share divided by the P/E ratio, then it will give you the earnings per the share. Then what will you do with this? You should compare this with the balance sheet and the profit and loss account of the different candidates. So, in other words, what does it mean? Your earnings per share and also your P/E ratio hold a key in the acquiring cost of acquisition. Needless to say that you should always look at the profit and loss account and also the balance sheet. So, you have the balance sheet, you have the profit and loss account, but you calculate the P/E ratio and the EPS to find out what will be the cost of acquisition that you can decide on for the company. So, an acquirer, what should he know? He should really be looking at divesting the loss making operations of this acquired company, and he should also use a ratio analysis to compare with industrial average. Then make use of this current ratio, that is, why do you want to make use of this current ratio? To reduce the current liabilities. Then look at the stock level. Why do you want to look at the stock level? Whether the possibility of reducing stock levels is possible. So, how do you do this? Stocks over cost of goods sold into 12 months gives you the method of calculation. Then what is the average age of debtors? In days, it can be reduced. The idea is to reduce the average age of debtors. It is debtors over sales into 365. Then using this, you revise the balance sheet and the profit and loss account of the firm that you want to acquire. So, there is a lot of job for the finance man when you are looking at acquisition or merger. So, then you have this risk analysis team coming into play also. They put the growth and the expectation rates, and when they put all that, they get this replacement value of the assets, which is given by 1 minus the age of assets divided by the total economic life of the asset into the current cost of the asset. So, this gives them what is a type of expectation, that is the written down asset value, how it can be calculated. Why it is required? It is required to evaluate the worth of the asset. The worth of the asset can be found out using this formula. Now, there is also the next question. Okay, you merged, taking all these financial indicators and having all these synergistic aspects, taking them into consideration. Then one very important aspect which comes into play is, after the companies have merged, there should not be bickerings between this company A and B. Oh, my company was better, this company was a, what do you call, loss making company. Why did it come? Why into our fold? Or why did this company, where was the reason for this company to be acquired by us? So, these types of bickerings are also quite common in this merger scenarios. So, how do you manage these types of difficult situations? That also is a very important aspect which you have to consider. So, now if you really see, look at Indian companies, take the example of Tatas. So, they are going into, what do you call, acquiring companies abroad. The Land Rover, the Jaguar in UK acquired by Tatas. Similarly, steel companies acquired by Tatas. Not to talk of this ArcelorMittal. So, what is going to happen in that type of a scenario? How do you manage that firm which is being acquired? So, you are giving a brand of the Tatas to this Land Rover and Jaguar. So, if you really see the present scenario, the Land Rover and the Jaguar has contributed to the profits of Tata Motors. So, those models in their foreign locations, they have contributed to the operating profits of Tata Motors. So, which has jumped up, not to mention the domestic market players where Indica has contributed substantially to increasing of the market share. So, this Indian scene now, if you really look at it, you are looking at a scenario where many Indian companies are willing to acquire foreign companies. They are prepared to shell down that money which is going to be which will be the cost of acquisition calculated on the types of indicators which I gave you, and many times much more may be required to be shelled down and shelled down in cash. So, many financial institutions including the RBI comes into play to help these takeovers or acquisitions, things like that. So, the what is the type of thing which you are seeing? You are seeing in the Indian scenario this acquisitions and takeovers likely to become dominant in future, have already become, it is likely to become more dominant in future. Many times the NRI status is helping in the mergers to get out of this FERA. All this is happening in the Indian scenario. So, this is how you look at all the scenes in with respect to merger. Now, I go back a little to my book, and this book gives you a few aspects not only after the merger and after these acquisitions, it also gives you some idea of what is meant by re-engineering. What is this re-engineering? Why do you want to do re-engineering? So, re-engineering refers to the radical design of a business process to achieve quantum gains in cost, service or time. So, when you are looking at different functional areas, you start looking at re-engineering so that you can get some quantum leaps. So, all this is this whole process of business process re-engineering is getting rechristened or coming up in the market in the name of business process innovation. So, in the next few years you may see the business process innovation becoming quite pronounced. So, you may look at business process innovation and it may be quite prominently used in the Indian scenario. So, this is the type of thing which you are likely to see in the present Indian scenario. And what is likely to happen? There will be some job design and strategy implementation which is likely to take place. So, I just go to one of the exhibits which is given in the book, that is designing jobs with the job characteristics model. The job characteristics model is an advanced approach to job design based on the belief that tasks can be described in terms of certain objective characteristics and that these characteristics affect employee motivation. In order for the job to be motivating, the worker needs to feel a sense of responsibility, feel the task to be meaningful and receive useful feedback on his or her performance. Then the job has to satisfy needs that are important to the worker. So, 5 principles are followed or suggested for redesigning this work. One is combining tasks. What does it do? It increases task variety and it enables workers to identify with what they are doing. And the second one is form natural work units. So, what does that do? It makes the worker to become more responsible and accountable. Then establish a client relationship, so the worker will know what performance is required and why. Then open feedback channels by providing workers with information on how they are performing. So, in other words, a sort of an ongoing research. This helps the job characteristics model to improve job performance through job enrichment. Although there are several approaches to this job design, practicing managers seem increasingly to follow the prescriptions of this model as a way of improving productivity and product quality. So, this is the way you are looking at job characteristics model in this scenario, in the present competitive scenario which you are really looking at. So, that might it might also hold a big key. So, looking at how these MNCs do this strategy implementation, if you look at them, so an MNC is having a global perspective, as you know, is a highly developed international company, and the decision making is also highly professional. So, what does this strategy implementation, what does it involve in an MNC? Strategic alliances in the form of licensing agreements and joint ventures between an MNC and a local partner in a host country are fast becoming a means by which the MNC gets an entry into other countries. This is what is called the entry mode in marketing. Okay. So, the especially developing countries, the key to successful strategy implementation lies in the selection of a local partner. It should be a strategic fit. An MNC can make use of a geographical area structure that can provide the advantages of centralized and decentralized implementation. So, if you look at our own one of our own companies, that is the Antrix. The Antrix is the commercial arm of the Indian Space Research Organization. It is into the business of remote sensing products and services, that is IRS products and services. So, this data products and services. So, when you are looking at this, India is one of the very few countries which has got these capabilities, apart from the developed countries like the US, Russia, then France, to name a few. Now, if you really look at the capabilities of ISRO is highly capable, but not fully taken advantage of in the commercial front, that is, it has not fully exploited the opportunities that are available to it in the international arena. So, what we are suggesting is this method. Why not you enter the markets in the Latin American and the African countries. So, you make use of a strategic entry mode, do not have to establish manufacturing facilities in these countries, but you can enter these markets which can be profitable for ISRO in the years to come. So, and ISRO as of now is looking at this proposal very favorably. So, they want to enter these types of international markets. So, using this type of this strategies, this is called, this is strategy implementation in practice live. So, how it is happening in an Indian company. So, this is the way it is, this is the way ISRO is trying to do. So, then all this may require for you some priorities in HR management. So, how do you really go about this HR management issue? So, a small an exhibit is given here, how a company like this Ann Iverson implemented a turnaround strategy at Laura Ashley, what really happened. So, if you really go to the book, it gives you this case when Sir Bernard Ashley visited a North Carolina shopping mall to see a prototype of the expanded Laura Ashley store. He was amazed and delighted. As the company's largest shareholder and co-founder, Ashley was well aware of how poorly the $512 million apparel and home furnishing company had fared since his wife Laura died in 85. Unlike other Ashley shops, this one was packed with customers. I almost cried. It was so marvelous, he exclaimed. The credit for this change belongs to Ann Iverson. Since becoming CEO in July 95, she had replaced most of the top management, cut the payroll, slashed costs and proposed aggressive expansion plans. I am the kind of person who has a steamroller behind her back, explained Iverson. The BOD of Laura Ashley Holdings PLC selected Iverson because of her ability to implement a turnaround strategy. Earlier, Iverson had helped improve the profits of British Home Stores, a division of Storehouse PLC. She then moved to the position of CEO of Storehouse's Mothercare Limited and introduced attractions such as talking trees and singing clocks to lure children and their mothers back into the stores. When Mothercare became profitable, she joined Melville Corporation in the US to run its KB's toy and hobby shops. At the same time, she agreed to serve on Laura Ashley BOD, that is a board of directors. Her in-depth knowledge of retailing soon led the board to pick her to manage the company. Iverson is a hands-on manager. She answers her own phone, gets into discussions regarding what kind of wood flooring should be used in the stores. To save expenses, she moved headquarters to a converted London bus depot. Acknowledging the dated Victorian look of the company's apparel, Iverson hired a new clothes designer, Boscha Cohen, to freshen the line but keep the flowing romantic look. She also expanded the stores to 7,200 from 2,500 square feet to expand home furnishings. One of her objectives is to increase the home furnishings to 65% from its current 50% of total sales by the end of the decade. The company's wallpapers, bedspreads, linens and curtains are less dependent on changing fashions than its dresses. Since Iverson's appointment as CEO, the company stock has more than doubled to $3.2 per share. If her turnaround succeeds, Iverson could earn $5.2 million over a 3-year share period. So, this is the way executives can also help in this thing. So, this is one more aspect of this merger and acquisition and strategy implementation. So, this really calls for leading or directing. So, this leading or directing calls for making use of the abilities and skills effectively, You can make use of different processes like the MBO, that is a management object by objectives, and also the TQM, that is the total quality management. So, all this is you may do it keeping in mind the corporate culture. So, this is in other words, you make a strategy culture compatibility analysis, that is the planned strategy compatible with the current company's current culture. If it is not, what should you do? Can it be modified to make it more compatible with the new strategy? Then suppose it is not, then is management prepared to make organizational changes, accept delays and cost increases? Suppose the company is not prepared to do that, then is the management committed to implement strategy? If yes, carry out the strategy. If the top management is not committed to implementing this strategy, then formulate a different strategy. In other words, a strategy cannot be implemented without the top management support in an organization, and you have to make use of communication as an effective tool for managing these cultural changes. So, whether it is a process of integration, that is a relatively balanced give and take of cultural and managerial practices, or assimilation, that is a domination of an organization over the other, which is not forced but welcomed by the members of the acquired firm. Then separation of the two cultures, then deculturization, that is involves the disintegration of one company's culture resulting from unwanted and extreme pressure. So, all this comes into play in effective leading or directing the organization. So, this is the method of managing the culture of an acquired firm. So, when you are looking at this management by objectives, so look at the organization's objectives, then set the individual objectives, develop the action plans, then look at a periodical review of performance to see whether these objectives are being achieved or not. So, when you are looking at TQM, what are you looking at? You look at a better, less variable quality of the product or service, quicker, less variable response in processes to customer needs, then greater flexibility in adjusting to changing customer needs, and then the lower cost through quality improvement and elimination of non-value adding work. So, essentials of TQM are the intense focus on customer satisfaction, internal as well as external customers, accurate measurement of critical variables, then the continuous improvement of product stroke service, then the new work relationship based on trust and teamwork. So, a model, a service quality model has been given by these two authors, Berry and Parshuraman, where they have given the 5 dimensions of service quality, that is reliability, that is the ability to provide dependably and accurately what was promised. Then assurance, knowledge and courtesy of employees and their ability to convey trust and confidence. Then tangibility, physical facilities and equipment and professional appearance of personnel. Then empathy, that is the degree of caring and individual customer attention. Then responsiveness, that is the willingness to help customers and prompt service. So, this concept of TQM according to Deming is based on a 5-step chain model, that is improved quality means that cost decrease due to less rework, very few mistakes, fewer delays and better use of time and materials. Then what will happen due to this? Productivity improves. Then what will happen due to better quality? Market share improves. When market share improves, the company can increase the price of the product. Then what happens when the price of the product increases? The company's profitability goes up and it can have a longer stay in the business. Then what additional things can happen? More jobs can get created. So, this is the way you can look at TQM to help an organization. And if you look at my book, the Deming's 14 points of quality, they are listed on pages 157 and 158 of this book, which you may like to go through. So, if you really see what is happening in the present scenario, as I just told you. So, in the present scenario, the Indian companies are tending to become global, looking at the acquisition process. When they are looking at this acquisition process, so all these factors which we looked at so far can be extremely helpful to them. So, then we will look at what is this evaluation and control process with respect to strategy. We will take it up in the next class. Thank you.